r/AskReddit. Police officers of Reddit, when collecting evidence, what has been the biggest moment of, how the hell is this bagged for evidence? I was an evidence clerk for a few years. Each morning, myself and the evidence officer would go through the night's submissions to enter them in the computer with their matching case number. Mostly, it was small bags of drugs, some found property like purses or wallets, and occasionally larger items like bicycles. Also the blood draws from DUIs that needed to go to the crime lab. Once even dozens of stolen pairs of DC shoes. The funniest story is this: the morning was too busy with other stuff, so we waited till around lunchtime to start the logins. The evidence officer was eating his lunch, and he had piled in all the bags on his desk, ready for me. I began entering as he called out each item, case number, etc. He picked up one item, opened it up, and immediately jumped out of his chair screaming. I jumped up and ran too. When an officer runs, run. He was super angry, and went stomping down the hall to the sergeant's office. I tagged along and learned that item was a large dildo, recovered from inside a male arrestee. That man had apparently been driving along. When he was stopped for an infraction, he was acting nervous, so the arresting officer had him exit the vehicle for a search. This item was discovered protruding from his backside. Lesson: double bag and use a biohazard sticker. People.
What crime would that evidence relate to? It's not illegal to drive around with a dildo in your bum.
To clarify, it wasn't taken for evidence. All property is held while a person is being booked in jail, in this case for DUI. He probably got it back upon release, along with wallet, keys, etc. Since my girlfriend refuses to get a Reddit account, she's asked me to post these. There was the big bag of pornography with a suspiciously stained towel. There was the loaded gun with the safety off. How the DPP lost its firearm license a few years before I started. We're Australian, by the way. There were the weirdly sticky love crayon artworks a 15-year-old made for her 25-year-old boyfriend. I had a historical record of seized evidence from a robbery, and it had a bunch of dildos on it. I have no idea if they were stealing the dildos, using the dildos in the robbery, or just had them there for some reason. One of the lawyers had a case involving low-level steroid dealing, and the police had confiscated a penis pump but labeled it as a bong. Dude was happy to plead guilty to the bong. I've posted this in another thread, but I feel like it fits here. I wasn't an officer, but I was a medic and was helping secure an area with military police and triage the wounded and found a head. Want to talk about a how am I going to bag this moment? Before anyone asks, yes, I did pick it up.
Am I gross that I think it's kinda cool? My sister is an EMT in LA, and she was transporting a guy with an open chest. He was left open by the surgeons and was headed to the hospital for more surgeries and was wide awake. But the important bit is that she got to touch his heart. So cool. She literally called me after and we fangirled about it.
Called to our victim with complex mental health issues stated that she had preserved the evidence, arrived at scene, and the victim had shaved every hair on her body and bagged it herself in individual bags depending where on her body it had come from, and labeled the bags with the location it had come from on her body. For example, eyebrows, armpits, etc. Sergeant insisted we had to book it into evidence. In the UK, I work in digital forensics. Biggest WTF1 we probably got was a cell phone that had been through a fire. Opened the property bag to get the phone out and, well, you know in vampire movies how you stake a vampire and the body just falls and disintegrates into a pile of ash? Yeah, something like that. We were literally like, WTF are we supposed to do with this? Also probably the only time we literally had to sweep for evidence in a digital crime lab. Had a collision on the road, no injuries but a couple cars were undrivable. What caused this accident, you ask? A spare tire. Someone was driving along and suddenly the old rusted bolts holding the spare to the underside snapped, dipping the tire into the middle of the road. Never got a good description of the car, never found the car, not even on cameras. Technically it was considered a hit and run. So the newest guy, was left with the task of tagging and figuring out what to do with this tire. Property wouldn't take it. Sarge had no idea what to do with it, so I took it to the evidence impound lot. The clerk took pity on me and let me store it there. Definitely the improv spear from last week. Guy shanked his brother-in-law with a kitchen knife duct taped to a 1.5 meter long wooden pole, which also had razor blades embedded in it, cause why not? I was like, do I wrap this in paper bags before stuffing it into the boot of the car? Do I try to disassemble it and then bag the pieces individually? What am I supposed to do with an improvised spear? How do I even log this on the computer? Why wasn't regular stabbing enough for this guy? What possessed him to go with shish kebab as his murder method of choice? Shopping cart overfilled with items. Trash bag the top to keep items in place. On night shift. Late at night a trainee hold on to cart out of the passenger window and slow rolled to department, swapped between that and him pushing it while life followed behind him, both with back emergency lights on. Thank you for watching. Police officers of Reddit, when collecting evidence, what has been the biggest moment of, how the hell is this bagged for evidence? If you liked this episode and want more, please subscribe and like. Thank you.